Many players taken at the top of NBA drafts have failed to pan out and busted as a result in the NBA. Guys like Kwame Brown, Hasheem Thabeet, Johnny Flynn, and many more have been taken in the top 5 of a draft and been out of the league without ever filling that potential. But one of the most intriguing busts in NBA history has to be Michael Beasley, the player taken after Derrick Rose in the 2008 draft and just before Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love. But since being drafted, he has been surrounded by controversy, being caught smoking marijuana in his rookie season, speeding, and going to both rehab in China. Beasley has seemingly done it all. But at the same time, his immense talent has kept teams coming back to him to provide an offensive spark. But just how good was and is Beasley? Is he a supreme talent that has been mismanaged and mismanaged himself, or is he simply not good enough for the NBA? This video will attempt to answer all of that, and cover the story of one of the most intriguing up and down careers of a number 2 draft pick. Beasley attended an incredible 6 different high schools early on in his career, playing in Maryland, Florida, Virginia, and Massachusetts. In his AAU ball, he would play alongside Kevin Durant, and you can sort of see the effect it has had on their games from growing up together. Both players have impeccable footwork in the mid-range and mid-post areas, and are very adept at creating space and scoring. Following his incredible high school and AAU career, many considered Beasley the unanimous number 1 prospect coming out of his high school class, and Kevin Durant had been the number 1 prospect the year before and had dominated his freshman season at college and ended up being drafted number 2 in the 2007 NBA draft. Beasley would spend his first college season at Kansas State and proceeded to have one of the most dominant freshman seasons by any college player ever, doing what everyone expected and following in the footsteps of Kevin Durant. In this season, Beasley was the 3rd highest scoring player in the country, averaging 26.2 points a game and led the entire nation in rebounding with 12.4 rebounds a game. He did all of this while shooting an incredibly efficient 53.6% from the field and 37.9% from the 3-point line, and setting a freshman record for double-doubles in NCAA history. Many thought that Beasley was the best player in the 2008 draft, which was loaded with Kevin Love, Russell Westbrook, and Derrick Rose. But some preferred the explosive play of Derrick Rose and wondered if Beasley might struggle as a bit of a tweener in the NBA. But Pat Riley and the Miami Heat disagreed, and took him 2nd in the draft and hoped that the pairing of him and Dwayne Wade would lead the Heat back to the playoffs. But the first error and red flag of Beasley's career would immediately appear at the NBA Rookies Induction Program, a program run to help new NBA players adjust to the craziness of the NBA world. Here, Beasley would get caught smoking weed at 2 AM with Mario Chalmers and Jarrell Arthur. Now, this is something that I'm sure happens incredibly frequently in the NBA, but it highlights that Beasley was not about appeasing others or playing by the rules. He would live his life and play basketball one way, his way. Plus, Beasley actually managed to slip out of the room and initially avoided being caught, until Pat Riley forced him to confess to league officials that he was in fact there with Chalmers and Arthur. But this wouldn't stop Beasley from having an incredibly promising rookie season, as he scored 10 plus points in 9 of his first 10 games. Despite the slightly inconsistent middle of the year, Beasley would close out the season in fantastic form, scoring 20 plus points in his last 5 games. Then, he showed flashes of brilliance in the first round of the playoffs and helped the Heat take the Hawks to the end of a 7-game series. Despite the playoff series lost, many were very happy with Beasley's play and thought he would continue to adjust to the NBA and become more efficient within the league as the years went on. And in his second year, he would go on to start every single game for the Heat and average 15 points and 6 rebounds a game. Very solid numbers for a second-year player who was the clear second option alongside Jermaine O'Neal and Dwayne Wade. Beasley and the Heat would again make the playoffs, but this time they would lose to the Celtics, and hopes still remained high for Beasley in Miami. But the decision of LeBron James and Chris Bosh to come to the Heat in free agency would derail Beasley's career for the first time. The Miami Heat had no choice but to clear salary when they signed the 2 marquee free agents, and Michael Beasley was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for 2 second-round picks. A huge deal for a number 2 pick who had shown all that Beasley had shown in his first 2 seasons. And Beasley would play exceptionally well for the Timberwolves in his first year there, starting every single game and averaging 19.2 points a game. But the Wolves would only win 14 games out of the 73 that Beasley played in, indicating that perhaps Beasley's production couldn't lead to a true winning team. But Beasley was consistent this year for the first time in his career, and showed the league that if you gave him the ball, he could put it in the basket. He had a career high of 42 points against the Sacramento Kings, as well as 7 other games where he dropped over 30 points. It looked like Beasley had arrived, and with the Wolves' terrible record, many fans hoped that they would get the number 1 pick and select Kyrie Irving, completing a solid core of Irving, Beasley, and Kevin Love for the Timberwolves. But the Wolves would only get the 2nd pick in one of the weaker drafts in recent history, and ended up selecting Derek Williams, another tweener forward who, to be honest, was a very similar player to Michael Beasley, and from the moment he was drafted I knew that it would create issues, as you couldn't possibly give both players 30 minutes a game. And this would quickly eventuate, as Beasley would be moved to the bench and receive 8 minutes less a game, as he and Williams split minutes at the small forward position. And Beasley would have the worst season of his pro career to date, and throw down to the league just as he approached his first free agency. But Beasley would still get a 3-year, $18 million deal from the Phoenix Suns, who felt they could harness the talented scorer in that up-tempo system. And initially, Beasley would have some fantastic games off the bench and help the Suns to a few wins that they wouldn't have got without him. But in the first offseason after his stint in Phoenix, he would be arrested on possession of marijuana charges after being pulled over by the police. This was the 2nd time this had happened in Beasley's career, and the Suns waived him as a result, leaving Beasley without a place in the league and huge question marks over his dedication to the NBA, a position that would continue for the next few years. He would return to the Miami Heat towards the end of 2014 season to play alongside Bosh, LeBron, and Dwayne Wade. A stroke of irony, as these were the 3 players that led to him leaving the Heat in the first place and throwing his career off track for the first time. Who knows what would have happened if Beasley had have stayed in the firm, family environment under Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, who have expressed mutual respect and faith in Beasley. After not playing at all in the playoffs for the Heat, they decided not to resign him and Beasley found himself without an NBA home again. But this time he would take matters into his own hands and head to the Shanghai Sharks of the Chinese Basketball League to prove the world that he could still dominate against weaker opposition, and that he deserved to be in the NBA. He would average an incredible 28 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists a game over 37 games, and then return to the Miami Heat for an astounding 3rd time. But again, the Heat wouldn't pick up his team option at the end of the season, and Beasley returned to China, where he would win the foreign MVP award as he dominated with 32 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists per game on incredible efficiency. This time it wouldn't be the Heat who would pick him up, but the Houston Rockets would, and thrust him into a prominent bench scoring role where he would put up the most efficient numbers of his career, dropping 13 points and 5 rebounds in just 18 minutes a game on the best shooting splits of his career. And this is the point where I think he truly arrived in the league. He established himself as someone worth a roster spot. Beasley could come off the bench in limited minutes and score for a team, holding up bench units that couldn't create shots for themselves without him. And this had never been a problem in his career. The problem had been his inability to defend in a team scheme and failure to adapt to the high-volume 3-point shooting analytics era of the NBA. Beasley's obsession with scoring in the mid-range and through the post are simply relics of the past, and his failure to develop as a pick-and-roll wing similar to LeBron and Durant have cost him the ability to be a first option in the NBA. But Beasley is talented, no doubt, and if your main stars get injured, he is definitely not the worst option to have shoulder the scoring load whilst your stars get healthy. And we have seen this in Milwaukee and New York over the past 2 seasons as Beasley has come off the bench to score or filled in a starting role when Giannis, Jabari Parker or Kristaps Porzingis have been injured. In the 5 games that Beasley has started this season in New York, he's averaged just under 20 points in 27 minutes a game. A phenomenal return from your player who you signed with just the veteran minimum. And he even managed to eke out a win without Tim Hardaway and Kristaps against the star-studded Big Three of Oklahoma City Thunder. And whilst this bench role should keep him in the league for the next few seasons, I still think that if Beasley just adjusted his game to become a better pick-and-roll ball handler and a team player, he could become a much more valuable player in the league. As for Beasley, it has never been about talent, but rather simply about his basketball IQ and willingness to fit into a team. But if he doesn't change what is between the ears, then he will be simply picked up by borderline playoff and lottery teams, and have a few 30-point nights a season to remind us just what could have been. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA videos in the future, and leave a comment below of what you think of Beasley and his rollercoaster career so far.